I'm with Bill Carpenter today. Hi, Bill. How are you?
Great. How are you?
Great. Bill, I really was looking forward to having a chance to speak with you. For our listeners, Bill is with the Converse All-Stars Club. He's secretary this year. Is that your primary role?
Yes, I've been secretary for a few years, actually.
All right. So I'm looking forward to hearing about your club and how it's doing this year. But in particular, the reason I wanted to have you, Bill, to talk with you is to hear about your experience as a writer. You recently published a book called Epandun, and I did a little research for this interview. I found out that you have a lot of experience in the world of literature and the kinds of literature that a lot of us certainly don't have a chance to really learn about. So I'm kind of interested in the path that you took there, and then I was interested in hearing more about your experience as a writer and how that kind of dovetailed into your Toastmasters experience. So with that, you just tell me a little bit about yourself and tell me a little bit about your home club, Converse All-Stars.
Sure, thanks. I've been interested in literature for as long as I can remember, and I've started reading the Tolkien books, in fifth grade, and read them over and over for a while. And Tolkien was a professor of Old English, and so when I got to college, I actually took a course in Old English. Found it much more difficult than I expected. Harder than German.
Uh-huh.
But I got my feet wet in it a little bit. After college, I went to graduate school in literature and got a degree in it, and mainly focused on modern literature, not so much epic poetry. But after I left academia and went to law school, I got more interested in the old epic poetry form. And all through law school and then practicing law, I've worked on literary projects. And the way this Epandun came about, this epic poem about Alfred the Great fighting the Danes in 878, that initially started out as a screenplay, kind of along the lines of Braveheart. Braveheart was really the model there, and it was going to be part of a series of screenplays about English and American history. But I quit working on it as a screenplay because I'm here and working as a lawyer. I'm not in Hollywood hanging out with people to pitch my screenplay to. So I said, well, let's write what I really love reading, an epic poem. So I converted this screenplay about Alfred the Great into an epic poem about Alfred the Great, and I've just been working on it for many years. I joined Converse All-Stars, I think 2007 or so, at the recommendation of my employer and colleague, who wanted me to improve my presence and performance in front of judges in our law practice.
Okay. No, my question, Bill, sorry to cut you off, but you mentioned that you had, I think you said 2007 when you joined Converse All-Stars. Was that was your first experience with Toastmasters?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
I shopped around downtown Minneapolis a bit and lighted on Converse All-Stars, and have been a regular there for the entire 13 years from one end to the other ever since.
What was it about that club that attracted you to it?
Just friendly, lively, some great speakers, a kind of, I think it was really just the liveliness. I mean, it was a good-sized club, some very experienced, very good speakers who were also very much club-oriented. They participated in the competitions. They helped people along. They set a great example for preparing and doing your best at every opportunity.
Is this a community club or is it a corporate club? Is it available to anyone?
It's a corporate club that is open to the community. It's largely employees of Voya, I suppose at this point it's about half and half Voya and outside people. And Voya, before it was Voya, it was ING,
Okay.
and before it was ING, it was I think Northwestern Insurance Company. You know what, the inhabitants of that beautiful building on Washington and Nicollet have changed ownership over the years, but they're still in that fantastic place, and this club has been there since the late 60s.
Got it. Okay. So you joined the club there, and at the urging of your manager, because
Yes.
of the various communications need that you have in your profession.
Exactly.
Yeah. And well, that's been 13 years now.
Yes.
Do you think it's lived up to its promise? Do you think it's really helped you in a lot of ways?
I really do, and I make this pitch to every guest that ever comes into our club. I view it as something like going to the gym. If you're just talking to a group all the time, you're always going to be comfortable talking to a group. So don't take a few months off if you can help it. Just keep those muscles active and keep talking in front of that friendly, positive group that wants to help you, and you'll be set for any kind of audience.
That's great. One of the questions that I really wanted to ask you, I'm always surprised when I run into people like you that have this other thing going on in their life, and in your case, it was this passion with Old English poetry, Old English literature, history. I think the story of Alfred the Great and the Danes is just a fascinating bit of history in itself. And then at the same time, you have your own professional career. I'm sure you have your family, and then you have the professional development piece of Toastmasters. How does Toastmasters really? How have you found that's really helped or dovetailed in any way with that creative side of yourself?
Well, it goes back to all the way back to my icebreaker speech, since you asked. And I gave a speech of these sort of two lives that I lead: my professional life as a lawyer and my vocational life as a writer and poet. And those two things go together in certain ways, because you have to make a presentation that's intelligible to people and that they want to listen to you. And so really, in the course of my time at Toastmasters, I've given speeches that are about Old English literature, several speeches about Beowulf, and I've read several times from my work in progress. But I've also given the arguments that I've used at court, and given them as speeches to improve the presentational value of those. So
you've been able to use the club as sort of a sounding board for presentations that you expect to do?
Yes, on both sides of this equation, I've been able to use it to present legal arguments, and I've been able to use it to present samples of the literary work. And the club is, a Toastmasters club. I suppose ours is representative in this. It really draws people of all different kinds of backgrounds and interests, and so whether you're giving a legal case, a legal argument, or reading narrative poetry about them, you're getting a good cross-section of audience, and you need to learn how to appeal to a cross-section too. You're not going to sell a lot of books if you only appeal to the narrowest cross-section of your audience, and you're not going to persuade a jury if you're only talking to one juror. So these go together. For me, it's especially the piece of being comfortable addressing the group, because it's a very positive, well-disposed group, but having the chance to get feedback from a diverse group that a Toastmasters club has just been a real help to me in both my professional and vocational lives.
That's an interesting point. I mean, over the years, I know with my involvement with Toastmasters, there's been so many speeches where I've wondered, am I connecting with the audience, or only some of them, or there's some glazed eyes out there where I'm just not connecting, or I didn't make my point. But yeah, that's a great point. Whether it's for your work as an attorney, or whether it's the things that you're researching and writing about, either way, there's different audiences trying to appeal and try to convey a message as to what you're doing.
Yes.
That's interesting. Bill, I thought, just talk a little bit about Epandun. As I mentioned before the interview, I went out and to Amazon. I admit I have not purchased the book, so I have not read it. But I have tried to click and see what information I could find. I learned that it's pronounced Epandun, and
right.
I found that it has an illustrator, Miko Simmons.
Yes.
He seems to have a very interesting background in himself.
Yes.
So it's, if I have this correct, it seems like it's an epic poem format, and it's historical fiction, right? It's based on a true part of history, but on the other hand, there's room for creative licensing. Would that be correct?
Absolutely, yes. The main historical text is about one paragraph long. It's on my website, but don't look at it. It's a spoiler alert there, because it tells what happens. But the actual historical record is just a paragraph long out of the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles, and then that can be supplemented with other historical sources. But as far as what anybody says to each other at any given time, it's all fiction. You put it together in a way that you think will tell a good story.
So you find yourself, here we are in 2020, having to kind of project back and try to almost try to channel those people from over 1,000 years ago, and try to say, well, how would they tell the story?
Well, you imagine that the condition of having barbarian invaders pour into your country is going to be similarly tough for people in any era. And so when the Vikings, who were then primarily Danes at that point, when the Danes poured into England in the middle of the 9th century, pillaging, looting, and killing, that was very rough on the peoples that were there at that time. It wasn't England yet, actually. There was the West Saxon kingdom that Alfred ruled, and there was the Mercian kingdom and the East Anglian kingdom and the Northumbrian kingdom. I didn't find it that tough to imagine how people would take that kind of catastrophe in their lives, and how they would have to marshal their resources, their psychological resources, their moral resources, even their religious resources, to respond to a cataclysmic event like that, and then come back from it.
Oh, that's interesting. So kind of seeing it from their standpoint of facing that imminent incoming danger.
Yeah, seeing it from their standpoint and presenting it in a way that people from our standpoint would identify with.
That's really interesting. Bill, I know that you're a busy fellow, and I won't take much more of your time. I always like to end these interviews with hearing a little bit of a message to people that are either in Toastmasters or thinking about Toastmasters. And in this case, here we are talking with somebody like yourself that has this real creative passion and as an author, and yet has found support from Toastmasters. What would you say to that kind of person? What kind of support or the benefits they can get out of Toastmasters in contributing to that creative side?
Whatever you do, you live in a world of people, and your Toastmasters club are people who will support you and help you accomplish whatever you want to accomplish. And they do that by welcoming you and coaching you in doing what you want to do, and responding, supporting you. I see it as really you talk in front of this friendly group often enough, you develop a habit of you carry them with you when you go somewhere else. You carry this in your heart. You carry your club, who wants the best for you and wants you to succeed, wants you to remember the skills that you've developed, the sense of timing, the sense of having an audience, the sense of the audience wanting to hear what you say. And that group of people, that your Toastmasters club that you carry in your heart, will help protect you from some of the negative things you might tell yourself, like nobody really wants to hear this, or this is too much information or too little information, whatever. You do what you learn in Toastmasters. You prepare, you get feedback, you develop your sense of your audience, you develop your sense of your timing. That will help you do whatever it is that you want to do.
Well, those are some great words of advice. And once again, thank you so much, Bill, for taking time out of your day to speak with me.
Well, thank you very much, Chuck. It's been my pleasure entirely.
Thank you.